Hi, my name is Kennedy Reed. This video is an introduction to the Municipality of Portmore, located in Jamaica. I wrote a history of this town in a book I called The Story of Portmore, an illustrated history of Jamaica's Sunshine City. This is an aerial view of the community, taken in 2009. It consists of over 40,000 scheme houses, and the town is resident to almost 160,000 people. Portmore is located on the leeward southern side of Jamaica and is just south of the cities of Kingston and Spanish Town. This picture gives you a better perspective of Portmore in relation to Kingston. You can see the city of Kingston way in the background as you ride on the Port Henderson Road in Portmore. This aerial photograph from 1961, taken by Tyndale Briscoe, shows that the Portmore area looked very much undeveloped in that time. It was mostly empty, dry, salt-laden soil with mangrove swamps along the coastline. It was dominated by the mighty Cobra River in the north and the waterless Hellshire Hills in the south. It was near the mouth of this river that the British landed in 1655 to capture Jamaica from the Spanish. Hellshire is the home to many rare Jamaican creatures such as the iguana, crocodile, and the wild hog. You can't see them in this picture, but there are a few housing villages in the area, housing about 2,000 people. The villagers were mostly descendants of enslaved Africans who made a living by fishing, hunting, and working on plantations. Many villagers were Indians and others were Chinese. Now this is a picture of an old Chinese shop in the pre-modern village community called Brighton. We now call that Old Brighton. This is a hurricane house located in the village of Passage Fort, which is also now part of Portmore. These houses were built after Hurricane Charlie, which made landfall in the Portmore area on Friday, the 17th of August, 1951. The hurricane houses, along with plantation barracks, were the first effort at mass housing in pre-modern Portmore and indeed all over Jamaica. Portmore, as we know it today, got started in the late 1960s. By the 1950s, it was obvious that Kingston had outgrown all the flat development space, and the idea was hatched to extend Kingston into the Portmore and Hellshire areas. Businessmen approached the government and the Commonwealth Development Corporation to facilitate and fund this idea. Government town planners worked on the details. The plan they came up with included hotels, shopping centers, and housing. But it was the housing that took off. In the foreground of this picture is a community of Independent City, which is part of Portmore. It is the first modern housing scheme that was built in the Portmore area. It opened in 1968. Other schemes soon followed, such as Edgewater, Passage Fort, Garrymead, etc. They are seen all over the background of this picture. By the end of the 1980s, most of this section of Portmore was completely built. Settlement in the southern part of Portmore, which we call Hellshire, started in the mid-1970s with an offering of lots for sale, and also the development of Fort Clarence Beach. The plans of the 1960s called for 300,000 residents in Hellshire. The area now has less than 15,000 people, but is growing very fast. Hellshire now boasts some of the most expensive lands and houses in Jamaica. In the 1990s, the communities of Greater Portmore were constructed and consisted of over 15,000 houses. By far, Wickham and Matalan-owned company was responsible for building most of the houses in Portmore. They used prefabricated concrete structures. Many of the homes were small and hot. The idea was to build cheaply to solve Jamaica's housing shortage and provide homes to the ordinary people. But although most homes in Portmore are uniformed scheme houses, Jamaicans were quick to individualize these houses. This is an outstanding example of such an activity. Residents of Portmore also got together in citizens' associations and in clubs in order to address their needs. Together with local politicians and business persons, the residents of Portmore solved the issues experienced by the first occupants, such as the swarming of swamp mosquitoes, stray animals eating vegetation, the need for police presence in the community, the absence of postal services, and the dire need of adequate transportation to and from Kingston and Spanish Town. Here is a look at just some of the leaders who built modern Portmore. A better list is in my book, of course, The Story of Portmore. In the top left is Mayor George Lee. This is someone who led the effort to get municipal status for Portmore. In the bottom left is Mr. Edward Seaga, who was the Minister of Development when the idea of modern Portmore was conceived and promoted. Also there is Moses Matalan. This is a visionary who approached the authorities with the idea of extending Kingston into the Portmore and Hellshire areas. Mr. Matalan was also responsible for the development of two of the major constructions that enabled the development of Portmore. The first of which was the dike to control the mighty Rehoboth River, which would often flood in the northern part of Portmore, causing nuisance and even death. Secondly, he constructed the causeway to cross the Hunts Bay Sea and give thousands of residents in Portmore daily access to Kingston for work and schooling. The causeway opened in 1970, and in 2005 it was replaced by Highway 2000. After these two items were constructed, housing development in Portmore exploded. When you visit Portmore, what are some of the things you will see? Well, Portmore has the island's only horse racing track, called Caymanas Track. It opened on August 22nd, 1957. There are many churches in Portmore. This is the Power of Faith Church, which was started in Portmore and has thousands of members and international branches. The church even owns a plaza. This is the administrative office of the Portmore Community College. The college was opened in 1992, and it shares campus with the Hart Academy, which opened in 1985 to teach building skills. In 1978, due to complaints from residents and political lobbying, the government embarked on establishing two service centers and a city center for Portmore. These items were planned from the beginning, but were never delivered. These centers were to contain the fire stations, the post offices, the city offices, schools, libraries, and shops the people had been demanding for many years. By the 1990s, the investment paid off. Portmore saw an explosion of businesses within these centers. There are several historic sites within the community. Fort Augusta, for example, is the largest English fort in Jamaica. In this picture is featured the ruins of the Green Castle Great House in Port Henderson. In the background is a Forum Hotel completed in the early 1970s and which has been rarely used for over 30 years. In Hellshire, there is a Taino or native Jamaican cave which visitors are able to visit. This is a park to the entrance of the cave. The citizens of modern Portmore have built their own traditions. One of these was called Portmore Week. This is a festival of everything Portmore. Another tradition is the annual Christmas tree lighting and carol service held in the community. On public holidays, people flock to the many beaches of Hellshire, and they go to the international reggae festivals held in the community, such as Sting. There is a lot more about Portmore documented in my book. For example, only a few persons know that the most expensive movie in the world was filmed right here in Portmore in 1916, or that there was a soldiers' revolt here in 1808. Now, look to your bottom right, and there's a list of some features of the book. It's a real value for money. Finally, I have one more thing to say about Portmore. In the bottom right is the first Earl of Portmore. The property on which modern Portmore was built was named in honor of the Earl of Portmore in the late 1800s. To the bottom left is Mr. L. W. Rose, the first elected representative of the area under universal adult suffrage. Universal adult suffrage was granted to Jamaica in 1944. And the group picture seen above is of the first Municipal Council of Portmore that was elected in 2003, when Portmore was granted municipal status. We are proud of Jamaica, and specifically of our community of Portmore. I hope you enjoyed this presentation and will purchase the book. Please view the other videos. Bye-bye.